They told me my father died on a Tuesday. What they didn't tell me, not right away anyway, was that he'd been alive this whole time, just a few hours south, living in a house with a woman who wasn't my mother and a son who wasn't me. I was 22 when I found out. Same year my grandfather died. Same year I learned how grief can feel like a second job no one asked for. My name's Evan Maddox. I'm 44 now, teach auto repair at a vocational school in Corbin, but back then I was just some overgrown kid trying to hold the last threadbare corner of my childhood together. Harlan's not the kind of town you leave easily. It keeps you like a bad memory, heavy and unspoken. My mom passed when I was 15. Heart stopped in her sleep like it couldn't take the weight anymore. After that, it was just me, Pawpaw, and grandmother in a house that smelled like dust and menthol rub. Pawpaw got sick not long after, lungs mostly. That man coughed like the earth was trying to take back its air one wheeze at a time. I stayed. Not because I was brave, because I was broke, and because someone had to. Then, out of nowhere, this envelope arrives. Thick paper, expensive ink, postmark from Tennessee. Inside, a death certificate, some legal notice, and a letter from a woman I'd never met. My father's wife. Not my mother, his wife. She said he'd passed 2 weeks prior. Said I had a claim to the estate. Said in so many careful lawyer-approved words that would be easier for everyone if I just signed it all away. I laughed. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. That same cold shove I'd felt when he walked out when I was 7 and never looked back. Only this time, it came in cursive. She thought I'd fold. Maybe because I was young. Maybe because I didn't have much. But you spend enough nights watching your grandmother wipe her eyes with a grocery store dish towel because she can't afford a proper funeral for the only man she ever loved. Well, you learn what pride tastes like. And it ain't sweet. So I didn't sign. I told her she could keep the condolences. I'd take the rest. I waited for a knock that never came. After I told her I wouldn't give up my share, I expected something. A phone call. A lawyer. Maybe even a cousin I'd never met with some manufactured smile and a fake accent trying to guilt me into doing the right thing. But there was nothing. Just the same creaky porch steps, the same cough in grandmother's sleep, the same stack of bills in the ceramic rooster bowl by the sink. Grief makes you irrational. It gives you these strange little ideas like maybe the world owes you balance. That if you've suffered enough, somewhere, someone will make it right. I'd clung to that hope longer than I'd admit. But it only took a few days for the truth to settle back in. No one was coming to fix our lives. Not even the ones who were supposed to. A week after the letter, I got another envelope. This one thinner. No handwriting. Just my name printed on a sticker like I was an invoice. Inside was a copy of the will. Turns out my father hadn't just left me something. He left me the whole damn house. The Tennessee one. The newer life. It was all mine, legally speaking. And that's when the real twist hit me. This woman, his wife, she wasn't his widow in the eyes of the law. They were never married. Lived together 15 years, but never put on paper. Probably to keep his name off her debts. Or maybe because some part of him, even in his cowardice, couldn't bring himself to rewrite history completely. So the house, the land, the savings? All mine, not hers. And she knew it. That's why she came with that careful language and the plea for peace. Not for love, not for dignity, for convenience. I sat on the porch that night, holding the envelope like it was radioactive. Grandmother shuffled out, wrapped in the same green cardigan she'd worn since I was 10, and asked if I wanted coffee. I said no. I wanted silence. I wanted to be alone with the sound of the dirt road and the slow unraveling of a lie I'd been told since I was a boy. That he left and never looked back. He did look back. He just didn't stop. A few days later, I drove down to the Harlan County Clerk's office. Not because I wanted anything, but because I needed to see it. The deed. The proof. Black ink on white paper, with my name where it used to be. There's a strange weight that comes with realizing you now own something you never asked for. I sat there at that laminated desk with a clipboard in my lap, trying to feel something like satisfaction. It didn't come. What had come was a flash of memory I'd buried years ago, my 7th birthday. Balloons, a homemade cake, and an empty chair at the end of the table. They said he had to work. I believed them. I even saved him a piece. Turns out, he wasn't at work. He was already gone. Moved on. Started a new life in Tennessee while I was still looking out the window, hoping to see headlights. My mother never said a bad word about him. Not one. She let me believe. I think that's what hurts more than anything, that she protected his ghost instead of letting me bury it properly. When grandmother got sick last year, she'd said something strange in a half-sleep state. Something about your daddy's house. and how that woman better not try anything when the time came. I brushed it off at the time, figured it was just a fever dream. But now I think she knew. Maybe not the whole truth, but enough to see what might be waiting for me down the road. And I hated that. Hated that everyone seemed to know something I didn't. Like my whole life was a story written in pencil, just waiting for someone else to erase and rewrite it. I didn't call the woman back. Didn't return her certified letter. I just signed what needed signing, paid the back taxes out of the little money I'd scraped together, and got the keys mailed to me without a word. She was right about one thing, though. It would be easier if I just walked away. But I've never been good at doing what's easy. The drive down to Knoxville felt like crossing into someone else's life. Same country roads, same billboards for church revivals and auto glass. But every mile felt like a question I didn't want to answer. When I got there, the house looked just like the photo. Brick one-story with sun-faded shutters and a stubborn magnolia tree clawing toward the roofline. Nice enough. Clean. Boring. The kind of place you forget the second you turn the corner. Except now it was mine. Unlocking that front door felt wrong in a way I can't explain. Like I was trespassing, even though the deed had my name on it. The air inside was stale, but lived in. Not empty, just unfinished. Furniture still in place. Kitchen magnet calendar stuck on a date 2 months past. A pair of slippers by the back door like you might come home any minute and slide them on. I opened the closet in the bedroom and just stood there for a while. His shirts still hung in a neat row. Dress shirts. Flannel. A Tennessee Volunteers hoodie. Nothing special, but all so intact. Untouched. Like someone hit pause on his life and forgot to press play again. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't sad. Because I didn't know how to mourn a man I never really knew. Was I supposed to feel grateful? Angry? Empty? On the dresser sat a wooden box. Inside, a wristwatch, scratched, heavy, and a photo of him holding a baby I didn't recognize. Not me. Probably her kid. The one he did raise. And that, I think, was the moment I realized I wasn't just here to collect what was mine. I was here to look him in the face, even if only through his leftovers, and say it out loud. You picked your life, and now I get to live with it. The keyring was old brass. It had 3 keys, front door, back door, garage. But it also had a 4th, thin, silver, unmarked. I found it at the bottom of a drawer in the kitchen, buried under coupons and a church bulletin from 2013. He'd kept it, quietly, purposefully. I held that little mystery in my palm for a long time. Funny how the smallest things demand the most space in your head. I didn't tell grandmother about the house. Not yet. I figured she had enough on her plate with her legs acting up again and the porch steps groaning louder every morning. And maybe I didn't want to see her face when I told her that the man who left her daughter to raise a child alone had also managed to buy a 3-bedroom in a clean subdivision with money he swore he never had. Instead, I made a plan. Took a week off from the shop in Harlan. Slept on the couch in the Knoxville house. Every morning, I'd fix a cup of instant coffee, sit in the same chair he probably sat in, and stare out the kitchen window. Trying to understand him. Trying to hate him less. I failed on both counts. On the 6th day, I used the silver key. It fit a little lockbox in the garage, tucked behind a pegboard of tools so untouched the labels still faced forward. Inside were receipts. Not recent ones. Old gas station logs, motel invoices, faded photographs. Some were of me. Me as a toddler. Me in a little blue jacket I hadn't thought about in decades. Turns out, he didn't forget. He just left anyway. And that might have been the cruelest part of all. There was a moment on the 7th morning when the light hit the kitchen window just right. That warm kind of late fall light, filtered, tired but still trying. I was rinsing out a coffee mug when I realized I wasn't thinking about him. Not out of anger, not out of longing, just not at all. The silence in the house wasn't screaming anymore. It had softened, settled into the corners like dust, always there, but no longer something you needed to fight. That was the moment I decided I'd keep it. The house. Not out of spite. Not to prove anything to his ghost or the woman who once tried to bribe me into vanishing. No, I'd keep it because for the first time in a long time, I had the option to choose something for myself. And this house, quiet, forgettable, halfway between regret and possibility, felt like the right place to start over. I called a locksmith that afternoon. Got the locks changed. All of them, including the garage. Then I packed up the photos, the old receipts, even the hoodie, and put them in the attic. Not to erase them, just to make space for something else. I didn't call the woman. Still haven't. I assume she got the message when her key stopped working. Grandmother doesn't know yet. I haven't figured out how to tell her I'm not coming back right away. That the boy she raised might finally be settling into something like a life. A quiet one. Maybe even a good one. That night, I sat on the porch with the same coffee cup in my hand, now scrubbed clean. The streetlights flicker on, one by one. And for the first time since I was 7 years old, I didn't feel like I was waiting on anyone. The toilet leaked. The fridge hummed like it had a grudge. One cabinet door in the kitchen hung crooked, like it had decided years ago it didn't care to keep up appearances. I spent the next week fixing things, not because they needed to be fixed, but because I needed to do something with my hands that didn't involve ghosts. Funny thing, the more I worked on the house, the less it felt like his. Or maybe the more it felt like ours. Like some reluctant collaboration between two men who never spoke, never met, but still managed to leave fingerprints on the same walls. I found a busted lawnmower in the shed, got it running by day 3. Mowed the front yard for the first time in God knows how long. Neighbors waved. One of them, older guy, white beard, name was Don, stopped by with a six-pack and said, didn't know he had a kid. I didn't correct him. Just took the beer, nodded, and said, neither did he. We sat on the porch in silence after that. Two strangers with too many unasked questions between them. It was nice. That night, I made dinner for the first time in weeks. Nothing special, grilled cheese, a can of tomato soup, a cold bottle from the six-pack. Sat at the kitchen table, the one that still had a faint ring from a long-forgotten coffee mug. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Steady. Not happy. Not whole. Just steady. Like maybe the ground wasn't shifting under me for once. I didn't tell anyone. Some moments aren't meant to be shared. Not yet. She showed up 3 weeks later. I heard the tires on the gravel before I saw her face. Same silver sedan from the envelope's return address. Clean car. Tinted windows. Nervous energy. I didn't invite her in. Just leaned against the porch railing, arms crossed, and waited. She stepped out, heels crunching the gravel, hair pulled back like she'd rehearsed this moment too many times. She had that tight, polite expression people wear when they think they still have the upper hand. She asked if we could talk. Said she wanted to clear the air. I said we could talk, but I'd stay on the porch. She looked around like maybe the house would save her, like she was still entitled to something in it. Then she said she was sorry, that she never meant to exclude me, that my father just didn't know how to reach out, that things were complicated. I let her talk, let her fill the silence with stories she probably told herself in the mirror. I didn't correct her, didn't argue, just nodded once, slow. Then I asked her one question. Did you ever love him? Or just a version of him who didn't come with a past? She blinked like I'd slapped her, said that wasn't fair, that she didn't come here to be judged. I told her neither did I. We stood there for a long moment, not fighting, just seeing each other clearly for the first time. Then she reached in her purse, pulled out a manila envelope, said it had some photos I might want. Childhood things. A letter he wrote but never sent. She placed it on the porch step and walked away. I didn't open it right away. Just watched the car disappear down the road, slow and silent like guilt leaving a scene. Then I sat down, picked up the envelope, and told myself I'd wait until morning. But I didn't. The envelope was soft with age, like it had been handled too many times without ever being opened. Inside were 3 photographs, one of me on a swing, one of him and my mother at a gas station, and one I didn't recognize at all. A backyard, maybe Tennessee. A boy with a plastic baseball bat. Not me. Not anyone I could name. And a letter. It was written on yellow legal paper, folded twice, dated 5 years before he died. No greeting. Just a few paragraphs that looked like they had taken a long time to start and too little time to finish. He wrote that he thought about reaching out every year on my birthday, but never did. Said he wasn't proud of himself. Said he figured I'd be better off without him. That he'd ruined enough lives already. That the silence was his version of kindness. He called it mercy. That word sat wrong in my chest, like a brick you can't swallow. Mercy isn't forgetting your kid exists. Mercy isn't letting someone else carry the weight you dropped. I read the letter twice. Once with anger, once with disbelief. Then I folded it again and set it on the table. Didn't tear it, didn't frame it. Just left it there like something neutral, a weather report from a storm I'd already survived. I didn't feel better, didn't feel worse either. Just tired. That night, I lit a fire in the small metal pit behind the house. Threw in dead leaves and old mail. Watched it all burn. Thought about throwing in the letter too, but I didn't. Instead, I slid it into a drawer next to the garage key. Some things don't need to be destroyed. They just need to be contained. The winter settled in soft, like it was trying not to be noticed. Mornings got slower, nights longer. I replaced the thermostat, fixed the rattling in the dryer, started reading again. Nothing fancy, just the kind of paperbacks you find in a gas station spinner rack. One of them had a dog that saved a town. I liked that one. Grandmother started asking more questions in her calls. When was I coming home? Was I eating enough? Had I gone to church? I told her the truth mostly, left out the parts about the fire pit and the unopened boxes in the guest room. She didn't need those details. I thought a lot about legacy that month. Not the money kind. That was never much to begin with. But the kind that sneaks up on you. Habits. Silences. The way people disappear without technically leaving. My father left behind a house, a watch, a letter, and a long string of people who never knew how to finish a sentence when his name came up. That's one kind of inheritance. But grandmother, she left me casseroles in the freezer. A worn Bible with receipts used as bookmarks. A way of saying, I love you without ever using the words. And I think if I ever do something worth passing on, I wanted to feel like that. Not like a debt, like a choice. One night, I sat at the kitchen table with a notepad and wrote down what the house needed. Paint, gutters, a new fence. Then I flipped the page and wrote, a couch that doesn't smell like someone else's story. A photo of me, not him, on the wall. I didn't finish the list. Didn't need to. I'd already started. Grandmother passed in early April. It was peaceful. In her sleep. Hospice said she didn't suffer. I drove back to Harlan for the funeral. Small service, cloudy sky. Casseroles lined up in the church hall like they always are. Folks said kind things. Hugged me like I was still that boy hauling groceries up the porch steps. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. She'd already said the important stuff. In the way she folded towels, and how she hummed old hymns when she cooked, in the quiet grip of her hand those last few times I visited. I stayed one extra night in her house. Just one. Slept in the twin bed with the crochet blanket. That place didn't feel like mine anymore. I think it never really did. It belonged to her. To the past. Back in Knoxville, the house was still standing. Still mine. Still humming slightly, like it was catching its breath between seasons. I didn't open the attic again. Didn't need to. Instead, I framed a photo, not of my father, not of grandmother either. Just me, on the porch, coffee in hand, a little bit of sun catching the side of my face. Don took it, without asking, one morning when I wasn't paying attention. I hung it in the hallway. Just one nail, one frame. Because sometimes the last inheritance isn't a house, or a watch, or even a name. Sometimes it's the choice to stay.